A mother knelt in silent prayer, a promise whispered in the air, a child born a gift from above. Samuel grew in God's great love. In the temple he heard the call, "Speak, Lord, I'm listening," above it all. A voice for truth in darkest days, he led the hearts in righteous ways. We are called by name, set apart. God writes his truth upon our heart. Through every trial, through every fall, we, like Samuel, answer his call. Anointed still we rise and sing, our hearts belong to Christ the King. Oh, through it all his grace prevails, forevermore his love never fails. He was called by name, set apart. God wrote his word upon his heart. Through kings and wars, through rise and fall, Samuel stood to hear God's call.
First Samuel summary. The theme revolves around the transition from judges to monarchy in Israel, highlighting God's sovereignty and leadership. Samuel's birth and call. Hannah prays for a child and gives birth to Samuel, who becomes a prophet and judge. Eli's downfall. Eli, the high priest, fails to restrain his corrupt sons, leading to God's judgment on his family. Israel demands a king. Despite God's warnings, Israel insists on having a king like other nations. Saul becomes king. Saul is anointed as the first king of Israel. Initially he is humble, but later he becomes disobedient. David is introduced. David, a shepherd boy, is chosen by God and anointed by Samuel. He then goes on to defeat Goliath. Saul's jealousy and decline. Saul grows envious of David and attempts to kill him multiple times. He disobeys God, which ultimately leads to his rejection. The prophet dies and Saul continues to spiral downward. Saul consults a medium. The spirit of Samuel prophesies his doom. Saul and his sons die in battle with the Philistines. 2 Samuel summary. The theme here is David's rise, reign, and, well, the consequences of sin. David becomes king. After Saul's death, David is anointed king, first over Judah and then over all Israel. Conquering Jerusalem, David captures Jerusalem and makes it the capital. The Ark of the Covenant is moved to the city, symbolizing God's presence. God promises that David's dynasty will endure forever. David commits adultery and arranges the death of her husband, Uriah. Consequences and family tragedy. David's family suffers greatly. Amnon assaults Tamar, Absalom kills Amnon, and later rebels against David. Absalom's rebellion. David flees and Absalom takes the throne but is eventually defeated and killed. Restoration and reflection. David returns as king, faces more unrest, and reflects on his life and leadership. Ending. David prepares for Solomon to succeed him and praises God for his faithfulness. Hello students, today we are going to do a summary for the book of 1 Kings. The book begins with the end of King David's life and the rise of his son Solomon to the throne. Solomon is known for his wisdom, building the magnificent temple in Jerusalem, and leading Israel during a time of peace and prosperity. However, his later years are marked by compromise, foreign wives, and idolatry, which leads to the spiritual decline of the nation. After Solomon's death, the kingdom divides, the northern kingdom Israel with 10 tribes and the southern kingdom Judah with 2 tribes. The rest of 1 Kings follows various kings in both kingdoms, focusing especially on their faithfulness or unfaithfulness to God. The prophet Elijah emerges as a key figure, confronting wicked King Ahab and Queen Jezebel, and calling the people back to God. Alright, let's continue with the summary of the book of 2 Kings. 2 Kings continues the story of both divided kingdoms. Elijah is taken to heaven, and Elisha carries on his prophetic ministry with miracles and bold messages from God. The book shows the steady spiritual and moral decline of both Israel and Judah. Kings rise and fall, most of them doing evil in God's sight. Eventually, this rebellion leads to judgment. Israel, the northern kingdom, is conquered by Assyria in 722 BC. Judah, the southern kingdom, is conquered by Babylon in 586 BC, and the temple is destroyed. The book ends in exile, but with a glimmer of hope as King Jehoiakim of Judah is shown favor in Babylon. Leadership and accountability. The kings show how leaders can influence entire nations, for good or bad. It reminds us that leadership carries responsibility before God. The danger of compromise. Solomon's decline and the idolatry of the kings warn us about slowly drifting from God's truth through small compromises. God's patience and judgment. God is patient, sending prophets to call his people back, but persistent rebellion leads to consequences, both then and now. The power of God's word. Prophets like Elijah and Elisha demonstrate the authority of God's word in confronting evil and performing miracles. God still speaks and moves powerfully today. Hope even in exile. Though the books end in judgment, they hint at redemption. God's promises continue even in hard times, reminding us that restoration is possible. Thank you for listening. Next we are going to summarize the books of Chronicles and Ezra. The song for Ezra is amazing. Do not miss it. See you soon.